And because I had any ramps, right? I literally grabbed the mic out in my hand and said, oh, well, in that case, welcome to my town, London town. I'm Alex Jordan. Let me tell you a bit about Notting Hill Carnival.
Why did you transition from radio to TV?
That makes you feel even more like, what have I done with my life again? Because it's slipping away. And what kind of impact and legacy am I leaving with the world? And when I went into TV, I was 40. Aging is not maturing.
Yeah.
When I first went into TV, I would love to give you what I'm thinking, but I'm not thinking because all I'm thinking about is how I look. Guess my people are more mature. They hating at home in their living rooms as opposed to online. I know. Getting a night bus home in a shared house with 6 people and thinking, why have I gone from my cushy middle class life in Barbados to this shit? This is a terrible idea. Everybody stop. Anyway, and I would like to tell the 30-year-olds, good Lord have mercy, when a no star. Let me tell you, my back car door, right side back car door was touching the left. A tremendous blow that I happened to live through. I jumped out of the car through broken glass and was like running around in shock. Is my face okay? Is my face okay? I am on TV. I'm on TV. When I was lying crying on my bathroom floor having called off the wedding, watching the most historic World Cup take place that I was supposed to be working on, I couldn't see nothing but darkness. Boy, we can get deep here now.
There we go.
Pass the cushion, pink. Pass it over.
Welcome to Gems from Friends. This is where we have conversations with creators, entrepreneurs, young professionals, collecting stories of brands and people. Hopefully we can motivate and inspire and maybe even ignite the fire for others to start their own projects. I hope you enjoy this episode. Stay tuned. So the person that is in front of me is a multimedia personality. A few years ago, she spent a lot of time on our radio, Slam 101, and now she is presenting on TV, Sports Max. No other than the dynamic Alex Jordan.
Hey, yeah, not Sports Max anymore. Well, sometimes with Sports Max.
Okay, educate me. What's the other one?
Well, I am a gun for hire. So right. I work for myself and people hire me, including Sports Max, with whom I do the Olympics and those kinds of things. When you see me on cricket and around the world, different TV production companies hire me.
Right.
So a Sunset and Vine or a Whisper or, there are many around the world. And through my agent, they hire me. So, you'll see me on many TV stations, but who pays me is often different people.
Got it. So I want to go back a little bit. When did you know your voice was special?
Early days, little girl. When I was about 6 or 7, I ball girled in this is dating me, in a celebrity tennis tournament. It was held at Paradise. Used to be a hotel called Paradise, people, down on the south, down at the bottom of University Hill. And they had, the stars of the time come and they did this pro exhibition competition. And I was a ball girl somehow, I guess through my tennis club. And Shari Belafonte, who's Harry Belafonte's daughter, she was one of the celebrities. And I must have had some interaction with her. I think I picked a ball up and threw it and she thanked me and I said, "You're welcome." And she doubled back. She said, "Who is this little Tina Turner?"
Wow.
Which really struck me. I was like, really? Tina Turner? And all these years later, my friend Andrew Pilgrim found an old cassette recording we had done when I was a young teenager. He was always a decade on me, but friends with my family, so a friend of mine. And clearly I wanted to be a reporter from young because I was reporting at a scene and interviewing him. And when I listened to that, I'm like, who's that little boy? I mean, gruff, gravelly voice. So I've always had it. I've always sounded like this.
Oh, and you could imagine just a little small moment like that could have changed things.
Yeah. And also, at that time, I was probably thinking, who cares about a voice? It just seemed it didn't seem like a big thing. And now, more and more, I realize it's a huge thing. Let me give you a quick story. I got hired to be a cricket commentator at the GT20 in Canada a couple of months back. That's the first time I've been hired as an out-and-out commentator. Usually I'm hired for my variety of skills, presenting the shows, going in the crowd. This time they hired me as a commentator. Someone's head should roll. Anyway, off I went and I got through good. I had a really nice team and I was taking a break in one of the VIP areas and this young woman came up to me and fanned out. oh my God. She couldn't even make my eye contact. She's like, I'm such a big fan of yours. And, you know, I kind of like mirror my life on you. And it's just so great to meet you. So, of course, I was embarrassed. So I was like, oh, no, cool. That's nice. Oh, nice to meet you. Anyway, so she waxed lyrical for a little while about what she admired about me, and off she went. Because I'm deeply insecure, I spent the whole day saying, that woman thinks I'm a professional. That woman thinks I'm really good. Why? What evidence does she have that I am good? So I happened to see her a little later in the day. And I was like, oh, hello, excuse me. A moment. And she came over and I said, can you tell me why you think I'm a professional? And she paused and she thought and she said, every time I hear your voice, I listen and I think, yeah, she knows exactly what she's talking about. And I was like, it's the voice.
Wow, it's your voice.
Yeah.
It's also the brains too, though.
Oh, thanks.
Are you enjoying it?
Yes, I'm enjoying parts of it very, very much. Traveling first class. I mean, that was the day my life changed. And of course, it's ruined me forever because...
You know you can't go back.
No, I have to go back because I can't afford first class. And when I go into economy, I am filled with revulsion. But just the small things, not to sound superficial, but that's a huge difference in quality of experience, you know. I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed seeing the world. I've enjoyed watching TV be made. You know, TV is a beast. Remember, I come from radio.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest transitions for me between TV and radio. Radio, I get to control everything. I'm controlling my desk. I'm controlling my music. I'm controlling the volumes. I'm controlling my clock, my voice, what's coming next. I'm staying ahead of all, you know, I'm 15 minutes ahead of myself all the time. I trust me. See,
TV,
like,
you have
oh my Lord. TV, you got about 35 people who got to do them job good. If they don't do them job good, sorry for you. Are you front facing? Mm-hmm. So that was tough to relinquish that control and to realize, no woman is an island. It has to be a whole team effort. And that's why I have changed a lot too. Where on my productions, I make sure I go to individual people and be like, my man, that edit did so hard. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you make that out of that. Because I realize he's got the best of me. He's found the best bits and made it look much better than it was, you know? So I'm enjoying bits of it.
Okay. So which one is more pressure right now, TV or radio?
Oh, TV, every day of the week. Live TV is an animal, you know?
Right.
You know us. 5, 4, 3, 2, cue Alex.
Zaddy.
Live to the world. Live to the world. I just posted, actually, a little clip from that same GT20 of those seconds before we went live. Someone was getting a video for me, myself and a guy called Niall O'Brien. Somebody messaged me and said, zero chemistry. I was like, okay. The point being that I put as the caption, these final seconds before we go live are my favorite part. And another colleague who does the same thing said, that's your favorite part? That's when I be dead in. The nerves be running through me. And I said, yeah, but that's the magic, right? That's the go juice. That's when everything starts firing in your body. And I think the better you get at your craft, in those minutes, you just come back into yourself. Mm-hmm. Trust yourself and then be yourself.
Have you been able to apply that to other things in life?
Great question. Yes and no. The ways in which I think I apply it to other areas in life is now that I can see myself on TV, I see how I carry myself. Who is that? Who is that man? I feel like I walk like a man, my shoulders like this. So now I do think much more about how I hold my body, because how I hold my body tells you things about me. It also tells me things about me. Mm-hmm. It tells me things about me. Is my heart lifted? Or is it afraid and bruised from all the beatings it has taken in these long years? Because truthfully, it has to rise again. And that's the literal thing in terms of your physical alignment, but that's also a metaphorical thing. Right. How you feel about you. Like when people always ask me, what do you like in a man? You see how a man carries his body? It don't even have to be a good body. But if he occupy the crease, you get me? Just be like, hey, say hello, okay, now later? What you doing later, my friend? Yeah.
I actually never heard it like that, though. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
The other question is, like, why the transition from radio to TV?
Simply opportunity. I was enjoying myself at Slam 101. And to this day, I still think it's the role in which I was the best. I was my best self on the radio. I enjoyed raising a generation. I still run into people who say, "My God, I grew up on you and with you," and I trust me. So I feel I was giving them good messaging. I feel like I prepared a generation now for a woke generation because I was left of center in those days, you know. So just gradually onboarding everybody in this idea that we must be more tolerant and those things. So I loved radio, and I only went to TV because there was an opportunity for me. My dad said to me at the time when I was weighing up my options, he said, "You know, Barbados is a bit small at this moment." We were also struggling economically as a nation. He said, "Jamaica's like the New York of the Caribbean. You should go there and do that. If they're offering you that, absolutely." So I chose it. They were paying me in US. I was going to have a new life in a new Caribbean island, which I didn't know much about at the time. And so I chose it for reasons outside of TV. TV was like, oh, okay, and this time I'm on the telly.
Got it. Did you have to do like a major cultural shift when you moved?
You mean to Jamaica or to TV?
Jamaica.
Oh my God, no.
Because it's two different things you did. You moved to a different platform, TV, which is an animal by itself, and then to another country.
I have never felt so home in my life.
Really?
As when I stepped into Kingston Town. Let me tell you something, brother. Seriously, because I'm an unusual Bajan. Right, let's start there. I'm an unusual Bajan for many reasons. And part of when I was coming up, my upbringing, I realized I guess I was considered wild. I mean, when I think about the world now, in the age of Rihanna, I wasn't at all wild. But in my time, I was on the edge of wild, you know? So when I walked into Jamaica, I was like, well, now these are my people. Because Jamaicans just living out loud.
Right.
And I remember immediately the cultural shift because I went to stay with my college friend early on. This is before I moved to Jamaica. She's from Jamaica. Her father's a doctor as well, middle class family. So I figured, you know, she'll be about the equivalent. Her life should be the equivalent of mine. Mm-hmm. Just from the very beginning, I could tell this society is so liberal, much more liberal and real, less conservative than it is in Barbados. So her father was speaking to us about weed when we were 21. You know, about like the best quality and what you need to get or what you don't get. And I was thinking, Lord have mercy. Never in a million years would my mother and father, they would be like, that is drugs and everybody should go to jail for that, you know. So even just that and the idea that people were a little more real with their children from younger. I felt very at home in Jamaica. I never felt culturally at sea. Once I learned patois, because obviously for the first 6 months, I was like, I beg your pardon? Come again? Mm-hmm, you said what? And remember, patois is not just street language. Patois is the operating language of Jamaica. So when I'm at the TV station, my cameraman, my director, my everybody speaking patois, you know, more or less. So there was lots I had to catch, but like, and then catch the meaning, because you can hear the words and understand the words, but do you get the meaning? So there was a slight transition, but I felt so at home. I had a wonderful time there. The bigger cultural shift was radio to TV.
But you made it look so easy, though.
You joking to me, Matthew? I cannot tell you how shitey I was when I started.
I mean,
for a good year, for a good year and a half.
All right, let me.
I was shitey every day.
Let me praise the editor then, because he got the best of you.
No, edited at live TV 5 days a week, Monday to Friday for 2 hours. I was live to the region. Off sometimes like. Okay, knowledge of the subject is one thing. I had to try and really learn NBA. We had the NBA and I was like not that interested in basketball. I had to force myself to get up to date on all the discussion points. So when we had a basketball segment, I was always like, don't come to me, don't come to me, don't come to me. But that was another thing. Content is another thing. You can learn that. But you see TV, how it operates, the timing, where you must look, how you must... I was very self-conscious. Mm-hmm. I was like, I would love for my brain to work, but all of my brain function is going on trying to look good. I'm sorry, I've got nothing left. I can't give you any intellectual simulation because I don't have anything left. Whereas radio, I used to go to work in my nightgown sometimes.
Right.
Because but this is pre a lot of social media when we were taking snaps and things.
Yeah.
I would just be in there and I could be my very self.
And it was just about your voice.
And about the essence of me.
And the message, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want you to know that I think that young girls need to see more of you because there's so many things out there that is telling them that they're not enough. And I think when they see and hear your voice and the image of you, like, it gives them a little bit of inspiration and hope that it doesn't have to be this one Instagram and visual this and that, but the fact that you come out authentic as well too, I think that's important.
When you say that girls are being brought up to feel like they're not enough, can you expand on that?
Okay, so we live in a visual time right now. So everything is Instagrammable.
Yeah, how it look.
But when you come in with dynamic, you come in with a message, and you come in with depth, which social media don't really push that. They just push.
They don't.
Populist. That's whatever is popular at the time, and they look and you're bringing a different swing to that.
I just got to 20,000 followers on my Instagram, which should be some thanks. That should be some kind of milestone. But I'm like, boop, bah, humbug. When is 425,000? No, it just needs a one clap.
No, that's a big deal. That's
Thanks.
a big deal.
But I remember I
you know why that's a big deal?
Why?
Because you don't have to like show skin or like dress in a certain way to get the attention.
Well,
so
there you
good.
go. For the 20,000 mark, I said, I'm going to make a little reel. And I was thinking, what should I put in the reel? And when I look back at how all my Instagram and how things have responded, I'm like, they only like to look at me. If I could put some bikini pics in there, if I could put like pictures of my face, that's going to get more likes. And so I think I even wrote it. I think I wrote, the algorithm tells me y'all want the physical, so I'll keep the hypotheses, etc. And I was right. Mm-hmm. People like to see how you look. Let's talk about this for a minute, because I grew up before the internet. The internet came when I was 16. So that makes a huge difference, because when I was growing up, we were reading books. We were being inside of our body. We had no phones, no photos. I mean, you hear a lot of people say that, but what does that mean? It meant instead of preparing to look, trying to look, you were just being inside of your body. So I had this very free, loving, supportive upbringing. I'm the last of 3 in my family, and we have extended family. I'm the last really of my generation. One or two a little younger than me, but I was always the baby. So I was enriched by all these people before me who grew up in the 70s and 60s. And then I had these wonderful parents too, who were very big on education. And my mother, I got my mother to thank for a lot of my authenticity. She's a white woman. When I say white, I mean fluorescent white. Blonde, like shocking blonde hair. Met and married my father in 1969, who is a black man. So when she moved to Barbados and they started having us, she started to realize very quickly this post-colonial society, the differences between white and black, and that her children now were mixed race. So she'd hear people saying things about, they got good hair, they got a good complexion, and she stamped it all out. She would give me responses for everything. No such thing as good hair, all hair is good. No such thing as good complexion unless she means that you're keeping your face nice and clean. Then we got to a point when I was about 15 or 16, I played Sleeping Beauty in the St. Winifred's pantomime. So people were always calling beauty this, beauty that. And she pulled me aside one day and she was like, Alex, anytime anyone says you're beautiful, I don't want you to say thank you. I want you to say, well, that's nothing to do with me. That's the genetic lottery. That's my parents.
Okay.
She said, you're not going to be young and beautiful forever. How you make people feel is going to be the real beauty. The content of your character is the real facts, straight facts. So even though, I mean, obviously she would have felt the pressure as well, I bet. I mean, she dressed beautifully, etc. But I know she struggled, as a white person. She lost her skin early, and my father stayed young all his life. So I know she struggled probably in thinking, she told me one of the worst days of her life was when she realized somebody was quarreling with her in traffic. And they said, watch out, granny. Mommy said, I went home and cried, boy, because I realized men have gone from souping at me to calling me granny. And that's a big moment for a woman when you go from being desirable to maybe old and irrelevant. So she was just trying to prepare me from that, from when I was a child. So I had good foundation. I genuinely believed, it's not that. It's actually how you are. It's not how you look. So I went through a period of not caring at all how I looked, which she was like, I think I've gone too far on this. You're going to have to tuck your shirt in, Alex. I remember my friend Leslie telling me in my 30s, she was like, you think you could wear like just eyeliner I mean, what about lip gloss and eyeliner? Let's just start, because I never wore makeup at all until my late 30s. Like, it just didn't even occur to me to try to pretty up my face, because I genuinely felt like the value I was bringing was my vibes. Let me lime, let me talk, let me, let me play dominoes and enjoy ourselves, as opposed to what outfit you wearing to the dominoes.
Right.
You know, I just didn't come from that. So yeah, these young ladies who are growing up now got a lot of struggle with that, because guess what? Also being mixed race, people would give me problems for the white mother. And my mother would come with this compassionate line and say, you have to forgive them, Al, because the eye is the most powerful organ. She said people just believe their eyes, right? The other senses go into shock because the eye is so powerful. And that's true. And when I look at Instagram, when I look at nice, pretty things on Instagram, when I look at Terry Carell and her amazingly lean and serene and perfectly poised beauty queen self, I'm like, wow, I wish I could look like that. Oh, I wish I could be like that. And I think that's, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry with that. Just be the best you kind of thing. It's a balance. You want to look good. You want to look after yourself. You want to look after your physical fitness, look after your face, wear sunscreen, look after your hair. Be well. But being well also really involves internal work. You know, your diet is more than what you eat. It's what you consume in its entirety. Are you watching the plastic? Yeah.
Preach.
Are you watching Karen's meltdown on YouTube, for example? Or are you learning new ways that the mind and body works, new science about how to be well and how to stay well as you age, etc.? I don't know what I would tell them other than I've struggled with it as well. And when I went into TV, I was 40. I went on the screens at 40, and I was like, why is everybody looking at me? Please look away. Just listen. Just shut your eyes and listen. It's going to be better for everyone. And I don't compare myself to beauty queens, because I'm not a beauty queen. I'm actually just a person. And how I look is how I look. And I do my best to try to stay well. That's all you can do. But I don't know how we turn back the hands, Matthew. It's such a slide. Because those girls are being endorsed for just being beautiful or just showing your body, and they're getting the likes, they're getting the promotion, and they have 80 grand followers.
So they would gravitate towards what's feeding them.
How can we convince them not?
Giving any feedback.
How can we convince them not? They're getting direct feedback that that's what I want to see. That's your value.
But I think, as you said, is a balance, because especially like working on your inside, it shines through.
It does.
And your looks will evaporate eventually. But as long as you're beautiful inside, it will keep shining, you know? The vibes still stay there. You're not just late for how you look,
That's
but you're
right.
just late for who you are.
Give yourself a... Yeah, please. That's a powerful point, because you will meet older women and men, first of all, who are beautiful.
Yeah.
The skin might have gone, or the waistline might have gone, but you sense the feeling you get around them is like, yo, this is royalty around here, you know?
Yeah.
You're right.
So, personal, are you prepared for that shift?
It's happening all now. It's happening all now. I
didn't notice, sorry.
I can see it and I can feel it. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it. And I mean, of course, for each and every woman, be frightened to say that word these days, because what's a woman? It's going to be different. For me, obviously, I have to think about not having married, not having children. That makes you feel even more like, what have I done with my life again? Because it's slipping away. And what kind of impact and legacy am I leaving with the world? But I really do believe in my highest self, when I am in my highest self, that being able to age is an honor. Your age is your honor in every respect. In first form at Queen's College, I had a friend called Paul Seeley. His first form, first term. It was a strange transition from St. Gabriel's to Queen's College. So St. Gabriel's majority white, I guess. And then when I went to Queen's College, I felt white. I was like, okay, this is a different sort of makeup. And I could tell people who came from government schools, not private schools, were like looking at me and thinking, who is this girl? But suspicious of me in some way. So I wasn't really invited in right away, except for the few who know who they are. One of them was Paul Seeley. Paul Seeley was this kind of loudmouth, funny, always laughing. He had glasses. I'll never forget him. Who started to teach me about dub music. And at the time, we had Liberty. And there was an hour. I can't remember what the hour was called. But he would be telling me all these songs. And I would go home and listen. And this was my way in to the society of the class, you know, the community of the class. I started to love the same music. And then they started to see me as an equal and relatable. And anyway, I love this guy. So we go on for Christmas holidays now. And come back in January, you know, Paul drowned in the Christmas holidays. Paul didn't see 13.
Wow.
And that one, up to today, when I complain if I see a line or, oh my God, I'm getting so old, I think to myself, thank you. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
How lucky you are.
Yeah.
And this is the problem, because we live now in a very superficial, and that's what it is. Looks, top coat, glossy. That is superficial. That is not feeding the soul. We are mind, body, and soul. We're not just face or body. The mind and the soul are very big parts of aspects of who we are, right? We're beings, humans who are being. But very often you're not being because you're just trying to look like you're being, which is a terrible place to be, Aya.
Yeah.
So
like people will go out and like just record themselves having a good time, but they're not really having a good time. But they just want to look.
They forgot to have a good time because they're busy recording, which is understandable. You can't do this. Like when I first went into TV, I would love to give you what I'm thinking, but I'm not thinking because all I'm thinking about is how I look. I know it because I felt it. I know the vibes.
Yeah.
Because getting old is so vilified, people feel it's an inevitability. I would see someone from school and we would be talking and they'd be like, yeah, man, you know, see, I get fat. I get old now, you know, so I get fat. Those two are not going hand in hand, right? Things are not, ultimately I will fall down. You have to stay well.
Yeah.
And if you stay well, you can age with grace.
Because
One,
you could be fat at 19.
as well. Two, Matthew, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm so much wiser than I was.
Yes.
And with wisdom comes peace.
Yes.
So all that grasping and insecurity and wondering and all that's coming into some sort of place and understanding. And that, my friends, is better than youth. I put it out there.
Yeah.
Because
growing up is fun.
Growing up is fun.
Life gets a little easier because you go through all the challenges and you learn and you build and you know the mistakes not to make again, and you get to live life differently.
You do.
So celebrate being older.
Absolutely. But it doesn't just happen from going to sleep and waking up, going to sleep. You have to work on yourself, right?
Yeah.
Aging is not maturing.
Yeah.
You can age without maturing.
You have to grow.
I remember, I'm going to name check Alex McDonald here. Alex McDonald was given that he was head of, I think it was Lime at the time, young man given this big job, right? And I think there was a lot of whizzying in the company. Like, who's this? You know, people in there for 40 years since it was cable and wireless and them things. And I think he gave a speech on his entry where he made a point that stuck with me. He was like, you know, I know many of you have been here for longer than I've been alive. But I would ask you, if you've been here for 40 years or if you've had the same day over and over for 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's deep.
And I loved that. I love that because you can't just go through mindlessly and think, yeah, I'm mature and one day I'm going to wake up. No, you have to look at what happens in your life. You have to assess where you've been wrong. You know, the Stoics talk about when you go to bed at night, taking an account of your day, running through, where could I have been more graceful? Why did I feel so jealous of that person? Why did I react in that way? That was impolite, right? These things, and then you take it the next with humility. You got to be like, oh, okay, I'm imperfect. And I'm going to try and be better next time. I'm going to think a little bit before I respond. And, you know, those are the things that come with age. And for me, that is peace. You know, the youth, they always talk about happiness. You want to be happy. Hey, are you happy though? Happiness is a temporary state.
For sure.
But you see, peace is eternal. That's why we say rest in peace.
Yeah.
Peace is a place where there is no wanting because you're already fulfilled. You have everything. You are abundant.
Tell me what you think about this. I think that happiness is almost like a myth. I think there are joyful moments, but then you said peace is something that lasts forever. And it can stay with you even in moments when you're sad.
That's right. That's right. That's the real.
And that's why we should strive to be for peace.
Brother, that is the real life hack. But it's hard as a youngster, especially in this era, as we referred to already, because I believe, boy, we can get deep here now.
There we go.
Pass the cushion, bang. Pass it over.
Light it up.
You see, I believe life changed fundamentally with the internet for a number of reasons. But the fundamental reason I remember, because it came in my time, so I was able to observe, was that before the classes were just separated. We had a big middle class in Barbados, so we didn't have massive class war. Places like Jamaica, my gosh, big differences. But what happened was poor people were just happy being poor, rich people were happy being rich, and we lived in this beautiful little place where everything worked. Tourists were coming, things were booming, we were independent, blah, 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 things were working. We had an educated population, came up, my father's generation, the independent generation, blah, blah. But you see, when the internet came, and then you could sit in your house and see how people live it.
Yeah.
That's how you living?
Ignorance is bliss.
Listen to me. I'm from the time Rihanna hit the streets, from the time Rihanna became a thing, I realized, oh my God, now that's people's new bar for their success.
Yeah.
I mean, how dangerous is that? The 0% of the 1%. It is unrealistic, and I think it's unhealthy.
Do you think it can be twofold, like in a sense where it can also like widen a person's horizon and give them a little bit inspiration to move forward a little bit more is possible?
Short answer, yes.
Yeah.
Representation matters.
Yeah.
I don't look at Rihanna's lifestyle and think, oh my God, will I ever have hundreds of millions like her? I look at Rihanna and think, Rihanna's the best at something in the world, and she's from about here. Mm-hmm. That means I too can be the best at something in the world.
It don't have to be the same thing
no.
the same way.
When I started traveling, doing the TV, presenting stuff, after every gig, I would be like, oh my God, I hope they hear me again. I mean, I hope I did okay because I wasn't really sure. And even when the camera would come on, I would feel like, oh, should I be here? These people are from big up countries. And I always had this sense of that I was lesser, even though I come from such a global family. Mm-hmm. And imagine someone growing up in Dash Valley who will feel like, come on, you know, if I make it to Bridgetown, I feel good. Yeah.
We call it imposter syndrome.
Right. Yeah. So I think that Rihanna should inspire us in that way, that she was authentically herself. I don't give a but I have my money. And the world was like, that woman is the most incredible woman in the world. And I just want to hype Rihanna a second.
No problem.
Because Rihanna's so amazing to me in so many ways, right? But what I really admire about Rihanna, or what I really notice about who Rihanna is in the world, is that you see A-listers, you see the Jennifer Anistons, and the big dogs in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Them must be nervous from Rihanna. Yeah. You understand? Them must be like, yo, Riri in the house, boy. I remember when I watched drinking, what's my guy's name? Seth, late night host. Seth, somebody. He went day drinking with Rihanna. And I could tell he was nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, look at that, my little island girl got to hop in. But meanwhile, she's as down to earth and as cool as ever. So I do think there's so many things about Rihanna that we can revere, that we can learn from. I think it's right that she's a national hero. What she has done is, unique.
Yeah, because she's shown that there's just not one blueprint that you have to follow in order to get there. She was just real.
She was real as hell.
And she went into an industry that is not.
Exactly. That's a great point you make. So she wasn't believe me, I worked in record business. This is me before y'all knew me too. When y'all met me at Slam, I had a whole life, you know. I worked for Polydor Records, A&R. I met 50 Cent back down, you know. When I released the book, when I gonna know again, you know. But the truth is, we put together bands. Like when I joined Polydor in October, we went #1 that Christmas with Sound of the Underground. Girls Aloud was a band that came from a reality show, and we were #1 A&R department for 5 years when I worked there. We were a big deal. But we were in the business of putting together and manufacturing bands, right? Some worked, some didn't. But that wasn't who Rihanna's project is like her. Like she was her legitimate self. Like if you know how unusual that is to make it all the way like that. That's, she's a firecracker of a human.
Right. Go back a little bit because you touched on it before Slam. Where you were?
I was living in London.
Okay.
When I finished university, I went to McGill University. And I came home and I worked for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a year on the Latin America desk. Porque yo hablo español, tú sabes. Me gusta mucho hablar español, entonces practiqué. Anyway, so I went to use my Spanish and my French and my Portuguese. So there I was in this government office. And then I woke up on my 24th birthday. I will never forget it. The reason I'll never forget it, and stop me if I digress, is because my friend's mother rang my house phone to wish me happy birthday at 6 a.m. So I was like, hello? And she was a born-again Christian. So she came down the phone with a lot of God talk that got me in my feels. And I put down the phone, thanked her nicely, put down the phone, turned to my mother with tears in my eyes. I said, Mommy, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I am there 9 months, and it's just a lack of energy. There's a lack of energy in there. People come in at 10 o'clock, reading newspaper till lunchtime, take lunch, and then done by 2 o'clock. There's no, and you see my energy now as a big hardback woman. You can imagine at 24. That day, I handed in my resignation, sold my car, took my life savings, and backpacked across Europe by myself for 4 months. That was the start, I believe, a lot of my life, of my modern life, taking my own fortune into my own hands. And I moved to London to ostensibly become a presenter, become a TV presenter. So life took its thing from there. I spent at least the first year butting boat, working night jobs as a waitress, getting a night bus home in a shared house with 6 people and thinking, why have I gone from my cushy middle class life in Barbados to this shit? This is a terrible idea. Everybody stop. Anyway, a series of things happened because the fate is like that, and the energy you put out, you get right back. A couple of things happened. One was that I was home for a Christmas holiday on the golf course. Thank you, Royal Westmoreland. And a friend of a friend was like, oh, you're living in London now? I said, yeah. They said, I thinking I should tell you you're looking for presenting work. He goes, well, I don't know anyone in TV, but I work in music. I work for Universal Music. I could probably get you an interview for an assistant job or something. I said, yes, please. And I went in. Oh, God. How much time have you got? Because this is a good story.
Let me go. Let me see how it goes.
I went in for this interview. And I was thinking, very nervous. I was like, oh, my goodness, a record company. I wore like a power suit, which, of course, is totally inappropriate. When I get any record company, everybody in jeans and trainers. I look like an idiot, like I get a bang. Anyway, needless to say, I didn't get that job. So okay. I went back home and cried some more into my coffee and thought, well, this is the end of me. 4 days later, I got a call back from them saying, the other managing director is back and he needs an assistant. And that's when Colin Barlow and my eyes made 4, and the rest is history. I became his assistant. He was the most successful A&R man in England at the time. And I worked for Polydor Records. Meanwhile, Notting Hill Carnival had come around, and I'd asked anybody to come and go with me. Nobody would come and go with me. So I licked back 2 rums and I went on a road by myself, butt in boat, as one does. And I ran into Peter C. from Ecstatic Family, Marshall's band, early band.
Yeah.
I said, hey, that's Peter C. So I went over, I was like, how you doing? And he goes, oh, yeah, because they had a camera and a mic. He said, no, we started a new TV station called Synergy TV. So we just here doing some things, clips for it. And because I had any rums, right? I literally grabbed the mic out in my hand and said, oh, well, in that case, welcome to my town, London town. I'm Alex Jordan. Let me tell you a bit about Notting Hill Carnival. I mean, I saw him years later. He told me he did vex. He's like, that woman trying to take my work out. Anyway, a few of my links made it to the main thing. And an executive producer by the name of Ray Paul happened to be in Trinidad one time, happened to see me, came back to England and told his team, this girl lives here. Find her. I want her to host our soca music show on the BBC.
Wow. So you see, is those little moments that just change your life?
I had no idea.
Right? You seem like a person that just moved too. Like you don't really consider to. You just moved. You get a little restless and it's like, no, this ain't working, and you move on. Is that correct? Or
I think that I follow my spirit.
Okay.
I listen to my intuition. You see, this is the other thing that comes with age. The wisdom is an inner knowing, right? Is an ancient knowing. So I often feel like, I think it's time to go now, or I think it might be time to move and shift and all those things. Yes. I was thinking about that actually, because I was thinking about how when I actually left at 24, the ministry, they called me Crazy Alex. I remember overhearing people in the lunchroom saying, was she crazy? She leaving a government? What? She must be mad. Because that's guaranteed. You could just stay there and have the same day for 60 years, right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I cannot believe that they would think my life would stop here. And even now, in my big hardback life now that I'm doing something, I have no delusion that my life stops here. My life is developing in the most wondrous ways. Wait till you see where I reach, Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. This is just the beginning.
Correct. And I would tell young women that.
Yeah.
Young women, and I'm going to say, if you turn 30, you're going to feel like, oh, I remember at the Barbados High Commission in London, old, nasty, stinking man look at me when I turned 30 and say, he must be about 70, by the way, at this time. He look at me and say, oh, you off the calendar? No, you're soon too old for me. Right? Which, first of all, is pervy and a bit pedophilia, hashtag. But second of all, I thought to my, I had never heard that expression. And I remember being shocked. I remember contemplating it on the bus home. He thinks 30 is the end of something. And then, of course, that imprinted on me. Well, nothing's happening in my life.
Right.
I'm single. I work in a couple of jobs, not making any big money. Nothing going for me. And I'm 30. Life is over. I had my friends Omar and Joanne tried to throw me a 30th birthday party, and I remember it was misery for me. I had a smile on my face, but my heart was dark. And I would like to tell the 30-year-olds, good Lord, have mercy. When a no start. Your value is not how young and supple you are. Your value is not just, if you can make children. Your value is you. Your value is you. What can you offer the world, your community, your family? Like, your value keeps on giving. And if you get the game of life right, Aya, you only get better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. And if there's a person out there who is thinking about making a step, a leap, to just follow the spirit or the heart, what would you say to them? If they're a little scared or a little hesitant?
Who dares wins, 1. 2, you probably will regret more not trying. Mm-hmm. To try and fail is a victory. You see the not trying? I feel a little hesitant when I talk about this because let's remember, I'm a middle-class girl. I had things to fall back on. If it didn't work out for me, I could go home to daddy. That's a fact. So I had a safety net. I ain't all that brave.
That's real.
That's real. Like, let's be honest about things. If you come from a working class, single parent household and money is skin and you've grown up with this sense of lack and responsibility, you're going to think more about it. But I would say to them that obviously responsibly daring and betting on yourself, you might reap tenfold what you thought was possible. Especially in this Iowa. Where you can make a living from your computer. I think your generation, generations below you, should feel more encouraged to take chances. Mm-hmm. Because life is no longer this cookie cutter thing that we used to have to go by doctor, lawyer, bank manager. Correct. Have to go to school there, have to go to university there. That almost seems irrelevant to me now. Big up NTI, National Transformation Initiative. You can go online there and take any course you want in anything online from your house, for free. Mm-hmm. You know how much money my father paid for my university education?
And you're getting it free.
All right, then. So I would say dare, believe in yourself. Follow your instinct. I believe that we are taken away from our instincts. We unlearn our instincts. That's why when you are around little children and they say incredible things and you're like, wow, they're close to source.
Yeah.
They remember who they are. Right. Well, we unlearn things. I would encourage people to get quiet, to meditate, to practice. I do something called Artemis movement. Look it up online. Incredible alignment. Because when you find some quietness and awareness, you have a sense of who you are. Not just who you are in your family or who you are to your boyfriend or who you are, the you. Mm-hmm. When you're talking to yourself, who's listening? Which self, right? Because there are layers of self, right. Aya. And when you break through a few of those layers like the onion and get to a closer self, then you following the right path.
Yeah. You said something there about the kids being closer to source, and I believe that because I listen to my son. My son, I think people have this habit of telling children to less noise.
Oh, Bajans, sit down and shut up.
Yeah, and I think that's how they learn how to not open it or let it out or whatever the case may be, or not be guided by that. So I think we gotta let it loose. Not do it in a disrespectful way, let them be, put them in lane when they need to be in lane. But when they got something to say, listen.
It's a beautiful point, Matthew. Speaking is, first of all, not disrespectful. Tone is disrespectful, and place. Because the old time Bajan would say, they're force ripe. That used to be a term. Them force ripe. Them out of place or whatever.
Yeah.
I want Barbadians to encourage language, right? But obviously not in a rude tone. Tone matters.
Right.
And then not out of place.
Right.
In other words, I hate when I'm living with somebody and the children just come in and the parent gives them all of their attention. Do you mean, excuse me, Auntie Alex, 1 minute, right? That's respect. But you have to encourage them with language, Matthew. If it's one legacy I leave in this world for my people from this rock, is to encourage language in your children. Language has been the making of me. Language has been the sustenance of me. My parents were big into language. And Barbadians do not encourage that. And guess what? I see it. Don't forget I worked the CPL. They had a year in the CPL where we would do these media interviews with the different teams before the tournament starts. And this team come in and that team come in. Obviously, it's mixed teams. But, somebody from Jamaica, them, yeah, man, I'm a chat, son, Trinidad, waxing lyrical. The Bajans were monosyllabic. Just could not put a sentence together, weren't interested in making my eye contact. I noticed a stark difference. And I'm like, these children, these big people, were not encouraged as children to involve themselves in a conversation that what they had to say was valuable.
Yeah.
And if you can get that kind of confidence in a child, you know how they say education is a thing you can't take away? You see, if you could teach a child to use language, it's priceless.
Before you said that, that's how I see you. I see you as an educator. And I see there's a lot, and you need to help fill that, where we need to communicate better. It needs to be in schools. Like, not just because you want to be a presenter or a personality. No. But communicating is everything.
Every single thing. I went in the shop the other day, Clifton Market. I'm not rich. I'm just lazy. And I got to the checkout thing, right? And I said to one checkout lady, excuse me, what part's she? And I pointed at the seat of another checkout lady who's usually there. And she immediately knew who I meant. And she goes, oh, she on holiday. You know the reason I asked for her? Because that woman, delightful. That woman has check out groceries for a living and is delightful, full of language, always talking to me about her diabetes, what's going on with her, asking me about me. You know what, you got these? You saw those other crackers over there? And I was thinking to myself, she's the best cashier in the world, right? Not because she's a cashier, she don't need language, Aya. She don't need to know how to communicate.
Everybody needs
I ask for her when I go in there. I want to know what's going on with her. No matter what you do in this life, how you speak to people, how you communicate with people is the crux of everything.
Yeah.
How do we connect? Yeah. And what you were saying, Barbados, and again, we're all Bajans, so we know about these things. Bajans quick to get the curse words, right? So quick, from zero to yak. That's where we go. And I often think, well, there's a couple of things going on there, isn't it? It's emotional control, but it's also language. So if you could have said, sir, why are you doing that? Can't you see that the woman is there waiting?
Maybe people go to those words because they don't know any other words.
Yeah.
It's the quickest and easiest
Vocabulary is a thing. I learned French and Spanish. My family is good at languages, and that was my favorite subject. Those were my favorite subjects at school. And I had a culture of a vocab book. So I had a vocabulary book that I would carry around with me, and every time I learn a new word, I'd write it in there, and I would go over them, and I love it. And now I do it for cricket. Now I have a cricket vocabulary book where I learn new words, not just at cricket lexicon, but in life. I learn a new word, I'll put it in the back of the book. So instead of using beautiful or sublime or gorgeous, I now have 9 other words that I can use. That enriches your life.
Yeah. You have critics, haters. How do you kind of handle that?
Up to the other day, right? Up to the other day, I was saying to myself, self, you ain't really nobody. You are not famous because you ain't. I don't get no stinking DMs. I don't get nobody cursing me. Nobody telling me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so irrelevant. But why aren't people cursing me? Because I have a colleague, Sanjana, who is married to Jasprit Brahma. She's basically A-lister in India. And people say the worst, horrendous things in her thousands of comments, which is very challenging for her. And, you know, she has to deal with it and get over it and all these things. And I was feeling like empathy for her, but at the same time I was like, what about me? Where are my haters? Anyway, just the other day during the CPL, someone sent me a message and it just said, do you actually understand the game? And I was like, finally, I have a hater. I'm sure I have haters, but they're not so vocal. You know, I guess my people are more mature. They hating at home in their living rooms as opposed to online. You know.
They probably don't have the vocab.
Correct. I mean, but here's the thing, and I talked about this the other day. I hope I can say it in a more concise way today, which is that in order to have haters, you have to have a real high opinion of yourself, an ego. Because when I get hate comments, when people tell me criticisms or things about me, I often think, you got a point, though. You got a strong point there. I definitely need to work on that. Or this is weak. I could see how you would think that. Who am I to feel? I remember a time on Slam FM. We were flying high. Rest in peace, John Doe. John Deasy, miss you so badly. But we had knocked him off the #1 position, Salt and I was feeling like right in high. I did on the bus. Things did going perfect. I did feeling in such a sweet spot. And we got a couple of messages into the text box that day that said, yeah, you guys aren't really so relevant anymore, though. And for some reason, I couldn't let it go. And after the show, I was like, Salt, you could believe the person said that? You could believe the person said that? And Salt looked at me and said, Salt, Alex, people just criticize Lil Rick. Who's we?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a great point. That's a great point. So, I mean, I use that in my life as I grow bigger, too, to be like, my God, of course there's going to be criticism. Why shouldn't there be? Why would my ego be so big as to think that I am beyond criticism? You see, in order for a hater to exist, there has to be the relationship between me feeling offended. The Stoics say you're only offended when you choose to be.
And how you respond to, and you can, as you say, you see it as feedback.
It's proper feedback. It's proper feedback. It's proper feedback. And then, you know, you can understand when people. I remember for a while in my younger days, I would hear people say, first of all, I was a lesbian. As before, it was cool to be a bloody lesbian. I was like, really? And then it was that she can't keep a man because I didn't actually want a boyfriend. I broke up with all of my boyfriends. But you see, the perspective of the Barbadian at the time was that I couldn't keep a man. When I knew in my body, they would love to have me still. That couldn't infiltrate my thinking. I could understand why they're thinking that because they're coming from a place where, in a community where women rely on men for money and these things. That's not my reality. So that didn't hurt me because I know that not to be true. And there's the important part. I have the compassion for their position. I know why they think that.
Yeah.
I know why their horizons are more narrow in that area, you know?
That's next level to even understand, knowing how to have grace, how to understand where a person is coming from.
Yes,
and then be bigger than that. And say, you know what? I understand. And that's all you need to say. You know? So Alex, when you first came in here, you mentioned about your good side. And I told you that you don't have a bad side. And you said, well, St. C car crash. I never heard about this. When did this happen?
When I lived in Jamaica. I was in Kingston and a friend had invited me over for a limelight or dinner party kind of thing, early evening. And I struggled as well with the routes in Kingston and I would always get lost going to this guy's house. Anyway, I was driving along the back at Constant Spring Golf Course. I had a small little car too, yellow car. And I started to slow down because I was like, I think I missed the bend, you know. So I slowed down almost to a stop. And the next thing I knew, I was hearing, no, sir. Nobody not live through that. No, sir. And my eyes pop open. And let me tell you, my back car door, right side back car door was touching the left. So a tremendous blow that I happened to live through. I jumped out of the car through broken glass and was like running around in shock. Is my face okay? Is my face okay? I'm on TV. I'm on TV. Is my face okay? And these people were like, first of all, they looked like they'd seen a ghost because they sure I did. And they were like, daughter, sit down, let the ambulance deal with you, sit down. I was rushed to the hospital. I was very lucky to have good friends, acquaintances, colleagues who knew all the best doctors. They sent me in to get scans, brain scans. I got a massive blow to the right side of my body. And it was so severe, they sent me home on sympathetic leave. They said, no, we're not sending you to your apartment here in Kingston. Go home to Barbados with your family and take a few weeks to, let's just make sure that you're okay. And I must have got home, let's say April 27th. And on April 25th, my father, unbeknownst to me, had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So he died June 4th. He had 6 weeks of life. And by the grace of God and that car accident, I was home to nurse him through the last days of his life. So I always felt as if this was a gift from your God, my ancestors, the universe, a sense of fate and what is supposed to be. I'm not proud of anything more than that. I feel like that was some of the most incredible, worthwhile days of my life, to lift my father out of the bath, lie beside him, talk to him, and just see his life slipping away. And he kept his grace. He was the most graceful man you have ever met. He kept his grace to his deathbed, graceful all the way. But I remember thinking, what are the odds that I would be home at this time, on this year, they almost had to kill me to get me home, to be able to be with my father, to see him die. I mean, and I remember saying to myself, because at the time I was rushed out of Jamaica, but I had a lawyer who said, you should sue. You're on the TV, you're a single woman. They mash up your face. I got something to my lip and I got a blow to the right forehead. But, I was young and supple. I was like, I look good. Now, and how many years on are we from that? 8, 7.5? I'm starting to see the bump. If you look really closely, you can see a bump here on my right forehead. It's coming more to the fore. And every time, much like the aging thing, every time I want to be like, oh, why do I look like that? If I hadn't had that accident, I think to myself, I am so grateful for that accident.
Perspective.
Absolutely. And also a bit of humility. So what? You have a bump on your right forehead. Get over yourself. People living with much worse.
Perspective is everything, because you could have went through that and just took it a whole different way and be miserable about it.
When you get older and you get more mature, you get more perspective. I love perspective, which means seeing from many ways. God, we don't even have time.
But choosing to see from the positive way.
Other ways that could be a benefit. It's hard to do when you're young because you have a certain idea of what you want to happen. You have a very certain idea. And I thought to myself, what is it with me and these special World Cups? Here I am missing another ODI World Cup. This one in India, the real home of cricket, let's be honest. And for about 4 or 5 days, I was like, why me? Why me? Like, I don't understand it. What am I supposed to learn from this? And then I was like, Alex, you've been asking for a break. You've been asking to be in Barbados for season, which is when my golf club is hopping. And, you've been asking to do some work on your house and grow some more things in your garden. You've been asking for more time with your mom. And then all of a sudden, my perspective changed. I was like, what a break. What a lovely break I get. Instead of having to go from CPL straight to India, where I would be on the very edge of my mental health anyway, I get this break. And that was perspective shift. I want to tell you, 4 years ago, I couldn't see no difference though. When I was lying crying on my bathroom floor, having called off the wedding, watching the most historic World Cup take place that I was supposed to be working on, I couldn't see nothing but darkness. It was the most depressed I've ever been in my life, those moments. And here I am 4 years later, a kind of comparison, because it's those same ODI World Cups. I miss out again, but this time, my impression of the missing out is so different.
Right.
It's a gift.
So you see that rejection may actually be protection, maybe?
Straight straight. And that's why I love young people. They always got the cool thing. Rejection is protection, Aya. Rejection is protection. Trust me, Aya. Believe it. You don't have evidence. You just have to believe it.
Yeah.
They got a lovely journalist by the name of Gary Young, Black English of Barbadian roots. And he talks about growing up with his mother and grandmother in Barbados. His mother was raised by his grandmother in Barbados. Anyway, mother raised him in London. And he wrote a final article for The Guardian. If you can find it, you should. He's gone off to be a lecturer at a university. But the article was essentially about that his mother used to put his feet on her feet and they would dance around the living room, dance themselves up. And he said, essentially, it was a metaphor for life, that you have to have this imagination of this wondrous life for which you have no evidence. You got to dance yourself up. And I loved it. Wow. Yeah. You don't have any evidence, especially poor people, black people, people struggling, people who grew up in abusive homes, people who are, all them things. You ain't got no evidence of a bright future. You just have to see it and believe it. It's going to come. And when you miss out on something, trust me, as your elder, something better coming. What miss you don't pass you. Or what for you can't. You know what Jamaicans say? They love Jamaica, Jamaicans say, what for you can't for you. Yeah, AJ. What for you can't for you.
Yeah, AJ. I know last day I heard that. But listen, man. Alex, you talk about your age, but one, you're not that old. You sound like the knowledge you have is very sage in ways. So it sounds like, you've been here for a while, but you're still young.
Young in spirit, I like to think.
And
as young as the man I feel.
I use the word dynamic with you because it's like your spectrum is so wide.
It is.
I mean, like you will lame on the block and you will be on the golf course the next day.
Yeah. I think it's unusual. I think it's another reason I've struggled to find a partner, because people very much associate themselves in a certain box, whereas I'm a human being.
Yeah.
And all these people are part of my life,
Yeah.
I think I'm enriched by it entirely. Not in any kind of like, ooh, I like poor people too. No, I mean, it's not like that. It's that actually there are few places in the world where I feel more at ease and more in my body than on a block. Mostly because any measure of decorum, couture, body odor, anything goes. You don't have to look good. You ain't got to be in a body. You could just go on there and reason deep, which I often do. Yeah, and I value that. Obviously, I don't come from there, and obviously they would probably look at me and be like, who's this woman?
Right.
But I know I get a lot of value from it. And you can grow up in a bubble. I have a lot of friends who I see their children don't know any poor people. But how is that possible when the majority of our population is poor?
You ever struggle with having to fit in, being a mixed race person?
Definitely. And that's, sorry to bring up age again, but it's important to say, because when I was growing up in the 80s, early 90s, there weren't mixed race people around. That was very unusual. Very, very few. So that was a struggle. And in fact, for a moment there in my Queen's College years, I rejected any sense of any white in me, which my mother got really upset about and thought, she said, no, you're a mixture of everything, and you should be grateful for it. So it took a lot of balancing from me in my mind, because I didn't want to associate with any oppressor. There were one or two other mixed race kids around Button Place who were very much what I would call white boys or white girls. Them like with strictly white people. And I'd be thinking, really? If you're mixed, how are you like feeling good about only liming with the richer, the whiter, or whatever? Like I had a certain political agenda from a child. I knew that I had to have a sense of both. People might listen to this and laugh, because I had a lot of white friends, don't get me wrong. I was part of a white community as well, because I did horse riding and ballet, and our parents were friends, and that was part of my social circle. I had to seek out this other side of the coin, which again, I was like, oh my gosh, so enriching, so much to learn. Yeah, and then when you have context of yourself, if you're just moving around in your bubble, what does rich or poor mean? Rich for someone who is already rich probably means Rihanna. Poor for someone who is rich probably means I don't know what. But when you actually interact day to day with people living and working class people in Barbados, you have a sense of what your country is like.
Right.
You have a sense of who you are in your country. I remember having to really quarrel with my white friends who would be lamenting about, oh yeah, you know, that's so unfair when they would call me a white boy and I didn't get my license until the third try. And I would always be saying, but do you understand the context of who you are? When you walk in a run shop, you got to say good morning hard. You got to say it loud. Nobody can be mistaken that you ain't speak. You got to say it extra hard. And I knew from very young, I had a sense of being brown, right? This brown curly hair. This was another thing which made me very uncomfortable. And I knew that I had to be my realest self because I didn't want nobody thinking that I thought I was anything different or special or better. Certainly not better. So yeah, I had an idea of that. And again, it comes from my mother, not my father, interestingly.
Right.
My father was not a man who dealt with race at all. He was himself, which is amazing. It tells you about his grace and his magnitude. But my mother was very mindful parent. She was like, no, not on my watch.
Right.
I ain't raising a princess. I ain't raising a child to not understand that black is beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
So you speak very highly about your parents. What is one gem that you would use from them that have brought you into this space?
Matthew, it's so unfair to ask for one.
Just one that stands out. I know there are many, but there's one that you go to regularly.
All right, I can give you one from my mother, one from my father. Because they're different people. They're very different people. They're very different.
No problem.
The one from my mother, right, is to find the good. In my practice now, the Artemis movement, my teacher talks about finding what is good and making it better, which I also like. So I was a terrible drawer. I have a lot of skills, but art isn't one. My mother would take all of my artwork and put it on the fridge and be like, this is so beautiful. I like the effort you made with the waves. And that bubble was only burst later on when my friends would be like, you know that look like shit, right? Don't mind your mother. My mother was the encourager of encouragers, and she's put it in me. You know, you become your mother. So now I find it very easy to compliment people on what is working. It is easy to see what is not working. That's the low energy vibration.
Yeah.
So simple to say, oh, he ain't good at that.
Right.
What is good? Tell him what is good. He can work out what is not good. He already know. He got 3-4 generations telling he wasn't good in that bloodstream. Wow. I'm going to tell he was good. That has been a major part of my life. That impacts people, and it impacts me. It impacts me. It makes me feel good that I can make them feel good. I'm not telling lies, Matthew. I'm just choosing what to tell you.
Got it. Okay.
My father, God, he had some real gems. He was a hell of a human. I think my father taught me grace and humility because my father was a Dan Dada. I mean, a Dan Dada. Large school stand up. I can just give you a quick, brief story about my father. My father did Greek, Latin, some other thing. Three of them things, Greek, Latin, and classics, A-level, and got 3 A's. Cambridge University, Rotary Law School offered him a full scholarship. He got 100% in the Latin unseen prose. And they wrote the law school, there's a document we have. Cambridge University wrote the law school and said, nobody has ever gotten 100%. This could only have been bettered had Cicero himself written it. My father decided not to take that scholarship. Stayed in Barbados another year because he wanted to be a doctor. And did chemistry, biology, whatever. The other one is, the other science. Physics, chemistry, biology, A-level. Yeah. And went off to Edinburgh. When I tell you brains, my father was dashingly handsome. He and his brothers were natural self-taught musicians. They had a band that used to play around the place in St. John. He was on the football team. He was on the cricket team. They asked him to go and play for West Indies cricket. And he said, I'm going off to study. Played for his... I mean, the man had a multitude of skills. Charming, suave, this, that, and next. And yet, anytime you were in the room with him, he made you feel like you were the most important person in your room. And I felt like that was a skill. That's a skill because there's no question he is. He is the most magical person, not only in this room, I would say in this country. But he behaves in a way that is so He would cringe if he heard me boasting about him, right? He had a real humility about him and grace that I hope that I could imbibe just even apart.
So you can be brilliant, but don't let that blame you from seeing brilliance in others.
Yeah, brilliant, but not arrogant.
Yeah.
Actually, true brilliance recognizes other brilliance, and also don't get too ahead of yourself, kiddo.
Right.
You've got a lot of shortcomings.
Right.
My father didn't do very well at putting himself in other people's shoes, whereas my mother good at that.
Right.
He feels that when we got 98%, my mother would be, that is the best thing I've ever seen. Congratulations, all your hard work has paid off. You see, you are so impressive. That's my mother. My father would be silent, and I'd be like, Daddy, you see, you got 98? And he would say, well, what are you supposed to get?
Sounds like a good balance between you two.
It was. He was not a man who would commend you for baseline performance.
Right.
Performance is expected. You talk about why I'm ambitious. People call me ambitious because I always think, oh, no, that wasn't that good. I'm going to get better. Because we had very high standards as children. You got real good to impress the dog, boy.
What's next for you, Alex?
Hopefully, love and union. I am manifesting my partner into this life. I am fed up of trotting this earth alone. And I know fundamentally we all trod the earth alone. But I'd like to trot it alone beside somebody. So that's certainly next for me.
Okay.
Also, I'm writing.
Okay.
So
book coming soon.
Yeah, book coming soon. And again, more of a creative approach to a book, because when I can't concentrate for too long, too many pages.
You gotta give me pictures.
Can you put it in sound? Is there a pill I can take and just have the knowledge? That's this generation for me. It's like instant everything.
But Alex, I think that you may not have one child, but you have many.
Yeah, thanks.
And these are the people who are watching you, especially the ones that used to be on radio, and you were like the auntie.
Yeah, that's right.
So
I still like to think of myself as that.
Are you going back to radio?
I would love to. I call Habib when I land on the ground.
Okay.
I ain't coming for your job, Salt. I mean, maybe I could do a little in and out, in and out, in and out. I would love to. I think I'm the most powerful there. And I believe in morning radio. I think it's important and grounding for a society. I think when you lose your population to podcasts and BBC, we're no longer a community and no longer an organism. It's like a newspaper in a nation that no longer reads newspapers. Right?
That's true. Anyway, we could go on and on forever.
Yeah, we could do a 5-hour part too. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so chuffed that I would be one of your friends for the gems.
Yes, my friends are gems.
Gems from friends. I like it. I love that you're trying to find what is good and make it better.
Yes, amplify the good. It's a wrap.
Sweet. Well, that was fun, guys.